Hi everyone. First of all, welcome to BT. So I'm Dan Hardman. I head up the Agile Transformation here at BT. So today I'm going to talk to you about Agile Transformation and the change we're trying to bring about here, and how complex it is in such a large-scale organisation. We're only at the start of a very long journey, and I'm pretty sure most of you already know the ins and outs of Agile, so I'm not going to go into those. What I'm actually going to do is talk about the bits that are most relevant to our journey in doing it at such a large scale. So what makes our journey particularly interesting is both the scale we're looking at in terms of numbers of people and budgets involved, but also it's not limited to the traditional Agile heartland of software development. We're looking to move many of our business teams to Agile, whether that's new product launches, the build of new capability, or even how we execute day-to-day campaigns. So we're really lucky here at BT. We have such great support and change coming from our executive teams down. We're looking to aim to lower our costs. We want happier employees through a better process. We want to have ecstatic customers through much better products. And we're also looking to be faster to market and innovate more quickly. And to do this, what we've actually done is we've invested in a dedicated Agile transformation team that consists of change managers and Agile coaches to help successfully move us from waterfall to Agile. So looking back at how we originally got buy-in, it actually wasn't that difficult at BT. Probably the biggest area we had to address was with the leadership, was this perception that you get relative certainty with waterfall and the belief that Agile brings uncertainty. And I really like this diagram, which really kind of helps explain things to people. And it's really helpful in overcoming that issue. So the first line here at the top, what this basically shows is that in waterfall, you have this idea of certainty at the beginning. And this is when we do all our requirements. We do our big design up front. We talk about our timescales. And everyone's really happy with everything, pats themselves on the back and says it's great. We then start getting into building and development things, and everything quickly descends into organised chaos as change comes in, customers' needs change, and things aren't as simple as we first thought. And then that starts leading to change in scope, time and budget. The fact that we have to lock everything down at our point of most uncertainty, which is that dot right at the beginning, is a driving force in us moving to Agile. The Agile line at the bottom pretty much turns everything on its head. And what we're basically doing is embracing the fact that we don't know what's going to happen at the beginning, and we've got this uncertainty up front. But then as we progress through the delivery, we iterate and we refine, and we start to get a clearer picture of what we're trying to achieve. So the end result is actually better. So before I get into the change we're trying to make at BT, I thought I might talk a little bit about how big we are. So we are 3 huge brands, BT, E and PlusNet, each of them market leaders in their field. Each of them have got their own digital and commercial and product teams, and each of them have got their own systems supporting them, like whether that's e-commerce platforms, customer service platforms, or things like digital CMSs. Consumer itself is massive. It's over 24,000 people, and we're supported by a further 5,000 in technology. We're also split over many locations across the UK and India, and we have over 80 systems that support everything we do. And some of these systems are extremely old. They have no API or microservices infrastructure. We have lots of manual testing, and we also have to release in big chunks, so either quarterly for BT or in big chunks, more ad hoc on the E side. And also pretty much everything we do in major change is delivered through waterfall delivery. We use our own bespoke waterfall process that's modelled on Prince2, and we have an average delivery time of about 9 to 12 months to get things out the door, but it can be even longer if things are particularly complex. So trying to move to Agile, I liken it to turning a huge oil tanker. We've got lots of people that will be affected. We've got legacy systems and processes that we need to overcome, not to mention the big challenge of delivering big organisational change without impacting the BAU delivery that we need to keep ourselves in business. So in order to turn this oil tanker, we've identified 3 key areas for change. So the first is technical and physical enablers. So this might be things like putting in the automation that we don't currently have that I've just talked about. Maybe it's using better use of data analytics, or perhaps tackling the co-location problems that we have at the moment. Secondly, we had to build our own Agile Framework, and I'm going to talk about what we're doing there in a second. And finally, it's really about changing the culture that underpins this all, and this is probably the most crucial aspect of everything we do. So in order to deliver this, we decided right at the beginning that we should practice what we preach. So the Agile Transformation team itself, we are defining and delivering our Agile Transformation in a proper Agile way. So we are running Scrum, we are using design thinking workshops to road test our ideas, and we're iterating solutions and constantly refining. We're also trying to make everything we do look and feel different. So we always like to say, think less LinkedIn, more Instagram. So we produce this mural to illustrate everything we do. Busy, isn't it? So that's the kind of reaction we want. So we wanted something that would provoke conversation, and it certainly has, but it also helps easily illustrate complex ideas that people aren't familiar with. And it also means that our Agile teams can use it when coaching people. We've stuck them all over the office, so we've printed them out on giant A0s, and people keep asking for them, which is really good. And we've been sharing them with our senior leaders as well, and they've really had the intended effect we imagined. And as you can see, it's also forming the basis of everything we're showing you today. So coming on to the Agile Framework itself, we decided we didn't want to do a bespoke Agile Framework. We weren't going to create our own thing. It was important that we found something out there which was proven with other large organisations and where we could fall back on expert knowledge where needed. So the framework we're using is SAFE, which is Scaled Agile Framework. We went on a bit of a journey with this. We originally tried to avoid scaling initially, but we soon realised that due to all that business complexity I talked about before and the amount of dependencies we have behind the scenes, SAFE is probably the only way our business could move to Agile in any meaningful way. A lot of big companies use SAFE as a stepping stone to true Agile, so I like to think of it as training wheels for BT that we can eventually take off. We've taken the bits of SAFE that are useful, and a bit like everything else we've done, we've kind of drawn up our own version and simplified it to make it easier to communicate to newcomers. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with SAFE, but I'll just quickly explain the difference between SAFE and normal Agile. So SAFE essentially scales up Scrum by organising several Scrum teams into groups of between 50 and 125 people, and these are called release trains, and then this train basically focuses on delivering the overall backlog together. It also uses something called program increments, where the entire release train gets together every 10 weeks to plan out their next 5 sprints. Yes, it does slow things down a bit, and we are only scaling where we need to because of this, but it's necessary in our business at the moment. And why SAFE? Well, our current systems have loads of dependencies in the background, and the program increments that take place every 10 weeks allow us to map that out. The program increments also give the business the regular cadence and reassurance they need from a planning and governance perspective. And we tend to launch big initiatives here at BT, so Scaled Agile enables us to deliver this while still targeting an achievable MVP. And planning increments, I spoke about co-location before. Planning increments allow teams that aren't physically co-located together normally to get together at the most important time and collaborate towards solutions. So this is the journey we're going on at the moment. So we currently exist in a predominantly waterfall world. It is a multi-year journey we're on, and we're looking over the next few years to gradually, change our culture. That's supposed to be workplaces, the ping pong thing, make our workplaces more agile. We're looking to update our systems and gradually stand up more and more Scrum teams. These are Scrum teams, not pizzas, by the way, for those of you that think it's a pizza. But people seem to understand it here. So this diagram here kind of shows the two-pronged approach we're taking to tackle Agile. So as we transition more from waterfall over to Agile, we are looking at team stuff on the left-hand side and business on the right. That's right, yeah, from where I'm looking anyway. At team level, we're making really good headway. So the first thing we're doing is we're working with our talent and development teams to put together a comprehensive suite of training. And this goes all the way from simple Agile 101 intro sessions all the way through to certified product owner and Scrum Master training, and even things like implementing and leading SAFE. We're looking to hero existing pockets of Agile with the business and champion what they're doing already. So other areas of the business can see that Agile is already being successful and we can leverage that. Where there are existing Agile teams that aren't quite working right, what we're actually doing is we're getting our Agile coaches to step in there and help them work, help them deliver Scrum more effectively, and maybe course correct some of the things they weren't doing quite right. We're also setting up and coaching new Scrum teams, and with these Scrum teams, we're looking to start out simple with 1 or 2 teams that are perhaps only touching 1 or 2 systems or areas, and then we're going to prove them out, and then once we prove them out, we're going to scale them, and the idea is to eventually scale them into entire release trains. And what we do with all of these new Scrum teams is we put them through a one-month mobilisation period where we assign an Agile coach, we train them up, we set the team up correctly and assign the right roles, and basically ensure they're ready to be successful. And then we use a simple feedback loop once they've launched to monitor the ongoing progress. Another interesting thing we're doing at the moment is we're actually at a more senior level, we're setting up something called Agile Enablement. And this is done with our senior leaders at an MD and director level. And basically what we're doing here is we're using a product-based approach to the leadership teams using lean and agile principles. And this enables them and their teams to deliver more value with less effort. It also allows senior management to start getting familiar with agile ceremonies such as stand-ups, sprint retrospectives, and managing backlogs. And also we're getting them to use simple tools like Trello. So looking over to the business side of things, the biggest change we actually need to make is to our culture. And this kind of demonstrates the culture shift we need to make. Steve Jobs once said, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And we need to embrace this by stop giving our people solutions to problems and actually giving them the problems to solve themselves and trusting them to do it well. We can't embrace failure here at BT at the moment because it takes so long to get things out the door. I spoke before about how it takes 9 to 12 months, so we can't afford to take any risks. By starting to work on MVPs and getting things out the door quicker and iterating, we can start to learn from our failures and not be afraid of them. In order to scale, we actually need to move from being a project-based organisation and become a product-based one, where our release trains own their own backlogs, they're continuously iterating and refining and delivering against value streams. The real challenge we've got here, and it's something that we're facing right at the moment, is identifying the right value streams in the first place and then looking at the people and the systems that are needed to deliver against them in order to set them up correctly. And the big challenge is that if we get this wrong now, we're going to face significant challenges later correcting that. And finally, we're looking to embed agile values all the way up the organisation, so it's championed from the top and successfully delivered from below. And this is going to be vital as we move through the big organisational change needed. Currently, key roles are spread over several functions. New roles such as product owner, which we don't really have in the true sense in the business at the moment, will need to be stood up. And there are many roles that exist within the organisation in a waterfall world that will have to either transition or retrain to new roles when we move to Agile. So we need to be really considerate of our people during this change. So that's kind of a whirlwind tour of what we're doing in terms of scaling. I'm now going to hand over to Jason, who's going to talk about EE Digital's journey from Agile through to scaling. And then Kelly's going to give us a little bit of insight into her own personal experience coaching an Agile Safe Train team in India. So over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Dan. So hi everyone, my name's Jason Chatham and I'm Head of Delivery and Planning in the Digital Development Operations Department here at EE. Tonight I want to give you a brief insight into EE Digital and how we scaled very fast over a period of 3 years. In the early days of the new EE brand, we just had small project teams working on each platform, and these teams consisted of both EE employees and contractor resources. The teams were using a DSDM approach and were located just across 4 UK sites. Our average release cadence in those days was about 27 days. An increase in demand for our digital capability took us from 4 teams to 19 teams in a really short period of time. And a major success factor in achieving that was bringing on managed service providers that could not only scale quickly with us, but actually provide the right expertise to do that scaling. Having scaled so fast, we felt the need to organise better. And we chose to loosely adopt the Spotify model, chapters, tribes and squads. This operating model is something we've continuously refined. It's in its 6th iteration, and we're now working with 3 managed service providers located in Bangalore and Minsk, along with our 3 UK sites of London, Leeds and Bristol. Development and operations consists of about 450 people, with a further 200 supporting us from product management, insights and UX. And we're mostly adopting a Scrum-based approach. Slightly controversial point is that our core squads in Agile terms are large. We've got 13 permanent members. But that's offset by using really, really experienced Scrum Masters that understand our delivery requirements. We've improved our release cadence on some platforms now to allow almost daily capability. Quick fixes deployed to production the same day of discovery. And the leadership team's empowered so that it has no silos. The department has the capability to deliver from concept right through to implementation and into our customers' hands. And our operations team, they now provide 24/7 support to all our platforms, and they're using the latest technology, using real-time fault finding. So another byproduct of meeting our ever-increasing business demand but scaling so fast was we came to realise our systems and processes just a little bit neglected. Being laser focused on delivering those large volumes of shiny new CapEx funded project features, just our resources were just not free just to improve on all of our improved tooling improvements. Maximum capitalisation of resources on timesheets against a controlled CapEx budget was the mantra. So one solution we've implemented very recently is to help rectify some of our issues and introduce a new chapter. And this platform services chapter has been put in place with two focuses. One, deliver framework tooling, and two, team enablement. And this chapter will focus upon containerization, platform tooling, frameworks, and dashboards to really improve our digital efficiency. One other thing we came to realise, we'd scaled a model that was really favourable in commercial terms, but it just wasn't a model that was going to scale and be efficient at that scale. A waterfall-based project delivery program presented us with problems around resource management. The age-old problem that projects wanted squads to be available from start to end of projects so they could guarantee they'll be there for warranty. Projects would experience delays with their start date, leaving gaps in our plan. Each project frequently overrun, causing delays to the next project starting. And each project had separate funding and were driven by KPIs that insisted on forecasting how that fund was going to be spent. The same user journeys and areas of code were constantly being modified by those different projects. So a change we implemented was to change our funding model from this waterfall project by project model to an annually secured funding model. And that's been a major step forward in how we can operate. It's allowed us to secure better terms with our managed service partners, and it's provided us with the certainty of keeping for longer those high-performing teams. We can utilise the resources more efficiently to meet tighter deadlines, and more importantly, only book time to projects when they're actually worked upon. Further decoupling of the architecture of our platforms and moving towards a single platform backlog is our next goal, along with the implementation of a scaled Agile framework. So I'm going to hand you over to Kelly, and Kelly's just going to talk a little bit more about her personal experiences of introducing the Scale Agile framework in BT.
Perfect, thanks Jason. Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm an Agile coach and consumer working on the first Safe Pilot programme. I'm here to talk to you today about my personal highs and lows I've experienced. It's worth noting that I'm the first Agile coach and consumer, and future coaches will have the support wrap that I haven't really had in place. I'm not here to go into detail about the pilot project, but I'm here just to set the scene and give you a few fun facts. So it's one of the biggest priorities that we have for consumer. We have a strict deadline with a fixed launch date. We are midway through our second PI. We have over 170 people on our train that's comprised of 15 teams, all between 7 and 16 people. We're really aware this is way above the safe recommendation and is actually more than we can effectively coach. In short, we've scaled too soon. The objective of our PI is to update this programme board with all of our features and dependencies. Hindsight really is a wonderful thing. If only we could go back and fix everything that we got wrong at the beginning. One thing that I truly love about Agile is the mentality to fail fast and to celebrate failure. We're on a continuous learning journey. We get things wrong all the time, but we move on and we improve. But not before I go drown my sorrows with a large glass of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc and kick myself for all the stupid mistakes I've made that day. Here are just a few of those wine-induced moments. So we wrongly assumed that everybody knew what Agile is, everyone knew what Scrum is and what Kanban is. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We sent people off on certified Agile training courses and who really struggled to get their head around the basics. A key learning, as Dan mentioned, is that we need to do Agile 101 courses or even Agile Refresher. This makes sure that everyone going on training starts off at the same, regardless of their previous experience. No matter how early you start planning for a PI, it's never early enough. As mentioned, we're a team of 170 people across both the UK and India. With so many people across multiple sites, it's really important that we get everyone there, the right people, right place, at the right time. The week we returned from Bangalore back in August, we'd confirmed the dates, venues, and all the people that we needed. This was a huge win compared to our first PI, when actually we'd only confirmed this a few weeks beforehand. It's not like we only have people travelling halfway across the world. During our first Inspect and Adapt event, we were told time and time again by the teams that the tools we provided for them didn't work. When we introduced SAFE, we also introduced new tools such as Jira and Confluence. A word of warning, if you're going to do this, please make sure they can support the number of people that can be using them on a daily basis. We found we had a 4-week period where people just could not access, and all the blame naturally came my way. A real definitive low moment as being an Agile coach. The reason I actually became an Agile coach is because I love people and I want to make their role and their time in these 4 walls as enjoyable as possible. Whilst I'm on my own personal development journey, I just wanted to share a few things that I've learned, particularly out in India. Ask for help and always accept help. Being in India, hosting a multiple SAFE event on your own can feel really daunting and really scary. My OCD actually kicked in and I spent so much time worrying about, did I order enough pizzas? Did I have enough Post-its and Sharpies? And this is actually a second round of Post-its I'd ordered because I didn't think I quite had enough, and they are still all unopened in Bangalore. These tiny details consumed so many of my thoughts, but the reality is no one else knew whether any of this had gone to plan or not. Being part of a collaborative and empowered team meant that I wasn't alone and I could lean on people when I needed them. My next point is about not taking things personally. People don't like change. People don't like being away from home for weeks at a time. People can't eat naan bread every day. People are scared of the unknown and people want to be in control. I wanted to be in control. I wanted to control everything, but the reality is I couldn't. Every sigh, every rolled eye, every frustrating comment, and everyone saying they didn't like SAFE, I took as a personal insult. Every night as I was full of self-doubt and on the phone to Chatham, and I'd ask myself, what could I do to make this better for everyone? Then I had my defining moment. It didn't matter if I had a response to every question or every concern. People were scared and uncertain of the change. It was that they didn't like, not me. But being a self-involved person who's desperate to be loved by everyone, this was quite hard to accept. Having a few people who I could lean upon, most of them are kind of in this room today, was amazing, and I can't thank you all enough. And the end, despite thinking at the end of PI we would never get there, we had 15 feature teams, 2 of whom we actually created whilst we were there during the PI. All our features are mapped out with all of the dependencies. And at the end, everyone gives a vote of confidence on the plan that they've all created, and then we have the mandatory celebratory dinner and drinks. Thank you, and back to Dan.
Thanks, Kelly. So hopefully that gave you a brief insight into the big challenge we're facing here at BT. And hopefully I can stand here in 12 months' time and tell you about the amazing progress we've made. So thanks, everyone. I think we've got questions, do we? So apparently I have to use this box. So if anyone's got a question, I'm going to throw it at you. So anyone got any questions? Is that a question? No? Oh, right at the back. Catch.
Not the camera.
Yeah, so you say you're at the beginning.
You have to talk into it. Is that working? It's not working. He said shout into it. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so you say you're at the beginning.
Yeah.
When was the beginning? How many months? How many years?
The actual beginning, there's probably 2 timescales really. There was the actual beginning was probably last November when I first pitched this idea to the MDs, and then we probably started in earnest probably April this year. So there was that buy-in period I was talking about. But since then it's accelerated quite quickly. So I basically was on a secondment into this role, and I've been there about 4 months now. So we've made quite a lot of progress. We've done everything you can see here in the last 4 months. And we've even got, as Kelly's kind of just talked through, we've stood up a whole release train. We've actually got a backlog of something like 11 pilots now, which basically we're scaling up as fast as we can get the Agile coaches in the door. So it's been pretty quick, actually. Quite surprising. On there. Is it working now?
Right. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, very.
So, as a telecom company, I believe your scope of agile transformation may not be just confined to IT transformation programs or fancy websites or apps. It may be to deliver a bigger business feature. So my question is to Kelly is about the SAFE implementation that has been done. How did you manage the dependencies with supplier teams? Let's say BT might have a supplier for raw materials of fiber optic cables or anything. I'm just taking an example. So how do you manage that in your agile release train? Because you may have a team of IT folks who are just doing the apps and websites, but in order to roll out the actual business feature, how did you manage it? And what were the major challenges that you faced in managing the third-party suppliers on your agile release train?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you go back to the program board, what we actually had at the bottom was one that said external dependencies.
I've gone too far. Way too far.
Keep going back. Yeah, but we would have a separate row at the end, which would show all the external dependencies. So Andy, who's sat here, is our product manager, and he's actually the one that would manage all of those external dependencies that we have, but we would map them out. I think you've just missed it, but yeah, at the bottom here is where we'd map them.
Do you used to have them in your safe ceremonies as well?
We don't include them in our safe ceremonies.
Not at the moment, but that's something we're looking to do. So the kind of implementation we're going down at the moment is we're basically doing a lot of our digital and software development. And then the plan, I think, what I was looking for earlier on is what we're actually starting to do in our new framework is say we're actually going to bring non-development teams into the trains. So you might have a marketing team, you might have an external team. So for example, sometimes we have to work with OpenReach and they are an external supplier to us. And it's basically about doing that. And there's lots of stuff, kind of talked about the business side, operating models and things. That may involve things like changing contracts with our suppliers, asking them to work in very different ways. So there's a lot of work to do there, which is why we started on the software side of things. And we're going to pick that up later, but we have got plans to do it.
All right, thank you very much.
Throw to whoever you want.
That's you.
Hi. I just want to ask some couple of questions as fast. How did you manage actually to convince your senior management to start this journey for Agile, from waterfall to Agile? This is one thing. And what's the biggest challenges they were having? This is one. Second thing, for your contracts in using Agile, do you use some payment milestones, and where you put it actually?
Okay,
Thank you.
The first one's easier than the second one. So the first one, sorry, what was the question again? It was...
How did you convince seniors?
Sorry? How did I manage to convince them? Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I had an answer lined up and then I totally forgot it. It wasn't as difficult as you'd think here, actually, mainly because our processes are very slow, and I think we've been recognising over the last few years that basically our products are getting more and more complicated and our delivery is getting slower and slower. And in order for us to survive, we're going to have to change our ways. And you've probably seen it in the press that, you know, Gavin has already announced that he wants BT as a whole to be more agile and be more lean. So actually that kind of opened a lot of doors for us, which meant that we could do that. And that's why when I originally went with the proposal to go agile, basically I was talking about a lot of these things they can get. Do you want to be faster to market?
What was the biggest concern from the senior management?
The one I talked about before with the line, which is basically, with agile, I don't know what I'm ever getting. It's all just, the perception is a little bit that, you're just doing whatever you want to do. These teams are just being crazy. And that's not the truth. It's a lot more disciplined. And it's trying to explain that. And the challenge isn't talking about it, it's finding a way to explain it that's completely alien to people. So I was liking it that I've never worked in waterfall before I came here, and I got here and I was like, what the hell are you doing? And then people say the same thing to me now, which is, what the hell is this? This doesn't make any sense. And I'm just like, well, it's as crazy to you as this is crazy to me. So it's kind of breaking down those barriers. And that's why we've used all these illustrations and things. They're a bit fun, but they also really help explain complex ideas to people. Yeah. I'm out of time. One more question.
One more, yeah.
Someone behind you.
The payment milestones, that's it? No?
Oh, sorry, we're not there yet. Sorry, that's...
You can chat outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Okay, go.
So
what does success look like for you?
That's a good question. Probably those things we talked about earlier. So what we're trying to do at the moment is identify some really good milestones. So it could be like a 30% reduction in time to market. It could be an increase in NPS. It could be an increase in profitability of our products. One of the things we are looking at is internal metrics for people. To be honest, one of the first reasons I kicked it off personally is I was in charge of the digital studio and the product owners, and people were coming to me saying they didn't have any empowerment, they didn't make any decisions, and they weren't happy in the way we were working. And I started this as a desire just to make the team happy. That was it. And then it kind of snowballed from there. So one of the big things we're looking at is we have an internal survey where we interview everyone. They fill in a questionnaire, we don't interview them, once every 6 months. And basically we can do that. We have questions that are specifically related to our processes and how happy they are in work. So for me, that's a big success as well, because you saw it before. If you have happy employees, you have happy customers, and then you have happy shareholders. So, all kind of levels out. I think we've run out of time. Cool, thanks everyone.